Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Agent Xerxes here, and before we get into today's video, there is something I'd like to say. I'd like to let you all know that we have a merch store. Some of the items in it are only available for a limited amount of time, so if you're interested, go into the description and check it out. Each purchase helps us make more content. Now with that out of the way, let's get into the video. After Izuku awakened his quirk, Katsuki stopped bullying him, and the two quickly became a duo. The other kids still tried to bully Midoriya when Bakugo wasn't around, but didn't get much of a rise out of him. With the UA entrance exam approaching, the pair increased their training regimen in preparation for the practical exam. When the day finally came, they entered the gates of UA together and walked into the written exam. The written portion wasn't a problem for either of them. They both studied more than enough and were smart enough to ace it. During the explanation of the practical exam, they found out that they wouldn't be in the same testing zones, and a bespectacled boy brought everyone's attention to the zero-pointer, and pressing Mike explained it as an obstacle to avoid. As the exam participants were standing at the gate to the mock city where the exam would take place, Midoriya noticed the girl who stopped his fall earlier was in the same area as him. Right as he was going to attempt to go and thank her for her earlier, he was stopped by the blue-haired boy with glasses that questioned Mike about the zero-pointer. He admonished Izuku for trying to interfere with her preparation for the exam. Before he could explain himself, President Mike's voice boomed in from the speakers, abruptly starting the exam. With years of playing, training together, and ambushing each other, Katsuki and Izuku rushed into their respective exam areas without hesitation. As soon as Midoriya came upon a group consisting of a few one-pointers, a couple two-pointers, and three-pointer robots, he activated his Sharingan. Their movements were easy to predict and might as well have been moving in a pool of honey. Thanks to the extra training he and Bakugo had done during the 10 months leading up to the exam, not only was his base strength, speed, and reaction time improved, but the enhancements his quirk gave him were also increased. He breezed by the various robots' attacks and smashed through them with his enhanced power. His fighting style somewhat resembled All Might's as he smashed through the robots with his fists. He kept racking up points, memorizing how the robots moved. A few times he happened upon participants that were in way over their heads and jumped in to help them, destroying the robots that threatened them. He managed to get around 30 points, while some others were counting numbers in the 40s and high 20s. He was making good progress. He had a decent amount of points, and there was plenty of time to get more. He took down 2 more robots that were giving other competitors trouble, punching through the center of their bodies when the stamina drain from his quirk just started to kick in. Right after this, the zero-pointer came crashing through. Izuku stood in shock at how large the new Fox villain was. It was absolute overkill for something that was just meant to be avoided. The other students started running in the opposite direction, desperate to get away and hopefully find smaller robots to gain some points. Midoriya ran straight at the villain bot almost immediately. Rubble from one of the destroyed buildings was about to crush the brunette he and Kacha met before the exam. He warned her, but it was too late, so he ran towards the danger in hopes of somehow distracting or destroying the robot before she could get smashed to bits. By the time he got close, the rubble had already fallen on her and her leg was stuck. He moved into a nearby narrow alleyway, imitating Kamui Woods' movement and agility. He climbed up the side of one of the buildings closer to the robot and with one hand flipped over the edge of the roof and landed on top of it. He kept moving forward, shifting how he moved once he neared the edge of the building close to the fake villain. Before we get back into the story, I would like to say that we've got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive is a channel based on a variety of anime lore. If you're interested in content like this, make sure you click the icon on the top right corner, or check the description box below for a link to the channel. Now with that out of the way, let's get back into the story. As he jumped at the robot's head, he screamed, "Canyon! Cannon!" as his movements perfectly matched Mount Lady's signature attack. When he reached the shoulder of the giant machine, he contorted his upper body into a stance that anyone who watched All Might fight close enough would recognize. The bot turned its head to look at Midoriya by now and had started moving its arm to swat him out of the air, but it was too slow. When his canyon kick broke through the outer shell of the bot's head, he unleashed his next attack before his body's momentum was gone. With as much ferocity and strength as he could muster, his voice bellowed, "Texas Smash!" as he brought his reared back arm into the Fox villain's face. 2 decent-sized jagged holes were made in the zero-pointer's head. Parts of the pointed edge dug into Izuku's limbs. Neither attack was as strong as when their respective pro heroes were used them, but they were strong enough. With an arm and leg stuck inside the fake villain, he was able to stop it from moving forward. Each appendage had a broken bone and had deep gashes running down them. With some struggle, he was able to remove each of them before the adrenaline started to wear off and pain and exhaustion took over. With the waves of throbbing and fatigue taking over, he slipped off the giant's shoulders. As he hopelessly plummeted to the ground, he faded in and out of consciousness. He didn't know when he became weightless, just that it happened at some point and then he was on the ground. Katsuki had been having a much easier time finding robots to destroy, thanks to them being attracted to his flashy quirk. By the time the zero-pointer arrived, he had already been at about 80 points. No one in his testing section had been in any danger from Giant Robot. They all steered clear of it, except Bakugo. Seeing how big and dangerous looking it was, he decided he wanted to show everyone up by taking it down. He had more points than he assumed anyone else would have anyway. He blasted his way half across the mock city to get to the zero-pointer and kept blasting around it. The sight was comparable to someone trying to swat a fly away. Every time he got close, it was near one of the robot's joints, and he quickly blasted away before he could get it. The explosions around the joints doubled as both a way to escape and a way to damage the machine. He mostly hung low and focused on weakening the zero-pointer's knees. When he heard President Mike start the countdown for the end of the test, he landed on the ground, arms aching and exhausted. He readied his arm for one last huge explosion and blasted a hole halfway through the zero-pointer with everything he had in his last second, breaking his arm from the recoil in the process. Unbeknownst to the two boys, they caught the eye of one of the spectators in the judges' rooms. The blonde, bony man recognized one of the boys as the plain kid who he saved from a sludge villain. He wasn't all too surprised to see him there. He had said he wanted to become a hero as the two were picking up the pieces of the villain. What caught his attention about Midoriya was that a fair amount of his villain points came from saving other test takers that couldn't beat them. Some of the moves he used looked like weaker versions of his own and other pro heroes. The pure ferocity, determination, and power that Bakugo had displayed during his fight with the zero-pointer made him stand out. He'd have to keep his eye on those two as potential candidates to pass one for all. A week later, Izuku and Katsuki were eating at Midoriya's place. His right arm and left leg had scarring from the exam that would take another treatment from Recovery Girl to fix. They had been doing weekly short visits so that his stamina wouldn't be too drained for him to do anything else. Bakugo had already gotten his acceptance letter and had been spending the time since then telling Midoriya that he was an idiot if he thought his letter wasn't coming and to shut up and stop complaining. He already knew Izuku got in. He scored second only to himself, but he didn't see a reason to tell him that. He'd know when he got his letter anyway, and that's just what happened when they were eating. Inko came running in the room with a letter marked with the UA on it. Bakugo got up, thanked Inko for the meal, and left. Deku was going to be crying his eyes out and asking him why he didn't tell him that he obviously passed, and he didn't want to deal with it. After Kacchan left, Izuku quickly finished his meal and excused himself to his room. Izuku ripped open the envelope and out dropped a small device that started playing a projection of All Might. The projection of All Might explained that he was going to start teaching at UA, that Izuku collected 40 villain points, and that there was a secret second part of the test. Before he continued explaining the second part of the practical, he explained to Midoriya that his actions during the practical exam led to others taking action, and showed him a clip of the girl he had saved talking to President Mike, asking if she would be able to give him any points that he might have missed out on because he was saving her. The clip paused and All Might explained that hero points also existed and how they were distributed before showing the scoreboard as the scores popped up. All Might explained that all the times he went out of his way to save people and him going out of his way to take out the zero-pointer to save someone all resulted in him having a higher score. First place was Kacchan with 90 villain points, 10 hero points, and right under him in second place was Deku with 40 villain points and 59 hero points, 1 point away from tying with first. That night, after he celebrated with his mom, Midoriya called Bakugo and cried tears of joy, freaking out over the fact that he not only got in, but the two of them got first and second place. Katsuki threatened to hang up on him multiple times, telling him to shut up about it, but they both knew he wasn't going to. They continued talking for a while about heroes, their quirks, their experiences with the tests and acceptance letters, and that All Might, their favorite hero, was going to be teaching at UA High School. Eventually, Bakugo decided it was time to turn in for the night, and Midoriya let him go. Between the time of the exam and orientation day, the two hung out like normal. One day in particular, they were brought into their middle school teacher's office, and the two were congratulated, and the teacher expressed his astonishment that they were able to get in. Katsuki was leaning his elbow on Izuku's shoulder again, with a huge grin on his face as he spoke.
It was obvious we weren't just gonna get in. We're the best there is. There wasn't a damn chance we weren't going to get first and second place in the exam.
He pointed to himself and the Midoriya as he spoke. Izuku just widened his smile in response. The two went back to Katsuki's place to play some games and hang out after they were done. The two arrived to class early and antics ensued. Their homeroom teacher decided that skipping orientation to assess their quirks would be a good idea. With the possibility of expulsion being hung over their heads, the class did their best to impress Mr. Aizawa. One unlucky student going home showed the rest of the class just how cruel the world of heroes could be. Thank you all for watching the video to the end. Now there's a few more things I'd like to go over before the video ends. On behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank the writer for this video, as well as the editor for this video. Their details will be in the description. If you're a voice actor, editor, or writer, or you're interested in becoming one of those, go to the Discord that's in the description of this video and hit up the head of one of those areas. We're always looking for members to join us. That's it from us for today's video. So thank you all for watching, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're interested, and hit that like button if you liked the video. Until next time, peace out, mortals. Have an amazing day.
Eyes in the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true.